So, you want to be your own boss, do things on your own terms, make some mad money? Many people have asked me about starting their own woodworking business, and my answer to most of you is don't. In the middle of last year, I started a woodworking business with my partner. We opened up shop, started posting on social media, and about a week after we opened, we got our very first customer. Today, which is about 8 months later, my social media accounts have grown significantly. I am on track to recover from my startup costs in about 6 months or so, and my queue for custom projects is now tentatively through 2024 and beyond. This all sounds great, but as a business person, I'm doing horribly. The next and most logical step for me as a business would be to start scaling. I could rent a bigger space, acquire some bigger and more powerful equipment, hire some employees, start to train them in my style, and really focus on growing as a custom furniture maker group. The other option I have is to outsource most of my projects. Take some time to find a reputable group, person or persons. Let them take most of the orders along with a nice percentage of the profit, and then leave myself to take on the projects that pay a premium for me to exclusively be the one to build something for them. And honestly, I want none of that. The thing I never realized when I got into the business game was how much of a business person I am not, and how much of an artist I am. The thought of scaling the business at all, in any way, does not excite me in the least bit. But what I found does excite me is the pursuit of my art, my curiosities, and the building of things that I want to build. But this doesn't mean that I never want to build things for anyone, or that I never want to sell any of my pieces. I do, but I want to approach selling a piece by first having made a piece with 100% of my focus coming from the questions I have and what I want to see become a reality. If you're wanting to create a custom furniture business, your primary function will be to build what the client wants to see become a reality. Now, there's two things that you could do to make that easier. You can niche your expertise by picking a specific type of furniture, a specific range of projects, and maybe even taking projects within a specific price range. Or you could standardize your designs. For example, if you were to specialize in making cutting boards, you can offer them in one specific design, or limit the sizes and modifications that people can adjust on them, and literally start pumping them out like a factory. Both of these options do not appeal to me. I want to create pieces with the lowest amount of limitations possible. I want to ask myself as many questions as I feel like, and to take as much time as I need in order to make it a reality. I am what they call someone with a starving artist mentality. But I'd say that I'm that way only about 80% of the time. Making things, whether it be through woodworking, ceramics, and even food, is kind of like a love language to me. And 100% of my clientele has come from social media. Because of that, I cannot thank everyone enough, and I want to do my best to give back as much as I can. So how I'll do that is with the other 20% through custom orders, both big and small, by branching out and maybe trying to teach some woodworking in the future, and also by doing what I can for the community, whether it be through meetups, teaming up for events, what I'm doing with mobility lift aids, answering any questions you guys might have, or simply by sharing my journey along with my thought processes. I'll do what I can, whenever I can. I just can't sacrifice who I really am. And who I am is not a business person. Despite the fact I have to admit that Claire's Woodshop has done okay so far. And a good handful of people have asked me for my thoughts on how to build your own business. So, as a non-business person who has at least gotten a taste of what business is like, here are some of my thoughts, and in no particular order of importance. Number one, you've got to know yourself. When it comes to entrepreneurship, self-awareness is a big term that gets used a lot, and for good reason. If you don't know what you like and don't like, you'll be taking a big risk to go all in on things that you might end up not liking. For example, if you think that you're okay with making cutting boards, you might end up discovering that you despise them. Or if you think that you like to make a smaller type of product, there's a chance you might find that you'd rather make a much bigger kind of product, which could possibly position you into regretting a big purchase decision. And knowing yourself also includes being considerate of your long-term goals. How will you want to scale? Will you want to outsource? Are you okay with a slight dip in quality? Or are you wanting to hire employees? Or are you okay with your bottom line being lower? I think a lot of these questions and more have to deal with you knowing who you are and what will make you happy. Number 2, if you have no idea what you want to do, pick something that you think you like and just give it a try. So I'm going to give you a little backstory on this point. I actually started a different business before Claire's Wood Shop. When we were still in Chicago, our first business venture together was with pet furniture. The idea was to create lines of interesting designs, make them, and then sell them. I made a handful of creations and then decided that I don't want to do it anymore. I know I made it sound like I was being really bratty, but in all honesty, it was a very tough decision and extremely emotional. We'd put a lot of time and effort into the project, and honestly, it was kind of one of Dawn's dream concepts that I'd said no to. But the thing is, I wouldn't have known unless I tried it. I love the idea of making pet furniture, and I love animals. And you'd better believe that the day I get a pet, I'm going to spoil the crap out of them with furniture. But man, I couldn't see myself limiting my designs to only pet furniture. Thinking of devoting all of my time towards that and nothing else broke me. And in the midst of all that stress, Dawn was the one who suggested starting over from scratch and creating Claire's Woodshop. Something under my name that could also expand into anything. And when he brought it up, he'd mentioned that I should probably just focus on building a brand before legitimately trying to build a business. And to this, I asked, why? And he answered, because you don't want to build anything for anyone. And I answered back, who says I don't want to build anything for anyone? So just like that, under my stubbornness, I talked him into starting Claire's Woodshop as a custom furniture business. And you know the rest from here. The moral of all this backstory is that I would not have known any of this unless I jumped into it. The one thing I had going for me throughout this entire journey is that my equipment didn't need to change. I know for a fact that woodworking is my passion. That will never change. What I didn't know is the fact that I actually have more to offer people than by only building something for them. And that is what I'll be heavily exploring once I get back from Korea. So if you have no idea, just try something and see what you think. Number 3, figure out the kind of marketing process that you personally can consistently show up to. There are a variety of ways to market yourself. You have ads, social medias, events, the newspaper, TV, email, and probably a ton of other things out there. But the most effective form of marketing and advertising, in my opinion, is social media. As a matter of fact, that's about the only thing I know. The thing I've learned about social media, though, is not to confuse reach with what is you. I'm actually not good at a variety of things. I'm terrible at doing trends, and anything dealing with me being on the spotlight, I've avoided podcasts because the thought of them make me extremely nervous. What if I don't know what to say? What if I freeze? That's also why you haven't seen me go live that often, because what if I freak out? What if I get overwhelmed? But what I am confident doing is building and making. So that is literally what I started with. My first videos all had no talking and were just videos of what I was doing. As a matter of fact, that's why we only had videos on YouTube that were all ASMR. I just didn't think I could handle talking. Another backstory to that is that when Dawn and I first started making Claire's Woodshop, I remember telling him very firmly that I never want to talk to the camera. The look of defeat on his face was so real. And now I feel like I'm talking to the camera all the time. While I am pushing myself to try different things and improve at them, I typically don't do what I can't handle doing. Some people are able to write lots of blog posts or wonderful captions about things. I, on the other hand, don't have the time or mental space to do that. What matters is that you find what you can do and do that consistently. Forget the results. Just be consistent and keep showing up. As a matter of fact, there are people out there that actually do zero social media and do really well only through ads on Facebook, Google, or Etsy. But the thing is, they found what works for them, and they know that they are comfortable showing up consistently in this way. And to my end specifically, I had my partner, someone who's an absolute rock star at business and marketing and doesn't care about the spotlight. With every one of the things that I said I can't do, he'd always respond with, "We're leaving money on the table, but that's fine. We'll try to work with it." He's been extremely adaptable every step of the way, and from the very beginning has told me that the most important thing is that we're consistent with our creation process. Don't worry about the results, don't worry about the numbers. Just keep showing up and keep being me. And while our process has grown and evolved, that has literally been our formula from day one until now. Number 4, if at all possible, I'd highly recommend starting a business as a side hustle first. This is something we did not do. And when I look back at the stress we went through, all of it revolved around financial struggles. When we started Claire's wood shop, it was literally with all of our savings from 6 years. We only had enough to hold everything down for about 6 months, and Don had mentioned that if we couldn't get a sale, he'd get a job to hold us both down financially. I do not wish that kind of stress on anyone. When you see your money fly out the window and you see nothing coming back in, that kind of stress can really get under your skin. Use what you have and maybe even start on Etsy. You don't have to go all out the way I did. In fact, I highly do not recommend it. The lesson I learned could have been learned through side hustling instead of risking everything the way that we did. If you are not already business savvy, then take it slow. Build it on the side and let the feedback tell you whether or not it can take over as your main form of income. Let the feedback tell you the kind of business you want to develop. And let the feedback tell you the kind of life you want to live. But of course, if the only way you know how to do things is by jumping in 100%, then by all means, go ahead. I'm not stopping you, nor do I have any say on what works best. These are just my thoughts on how I would recommend approaching a business. And last but not least, tip number 5 would be to give your all to your clients. Regardless of how I feel about any projects, this is a concept that I stand firmly on. As an example, when I was making my very last cutting board, deep down, I really didn't want to make another one. But the thing is, I never once let myself feel that while making the product. Woodworking is a craft, and when a client asks you specifically to make something for them, that to me is an honor. It's trust. And it's up to you to live up to that to the best of your ability. Give them your all and do whatever you can within your power. I shipped an adjustable desk to California, and when I heard that one of the legs were literally snapped off when he'd opened it, I remade it and drove 20 something hours over there and delivered it myself. And ever since that moment, I'd additionally vowed to deliver all big items myself. Is it efficient use of my time? Absolutely not. But this is how I personally feel that I am able to give 100%. It's what I am capable of, and everyone has a different set of abilities and definitions of what their 100% is. So yeah, that is basically all of my thoughts on building a woodworking business. It might not be much, but I do hope that it might be somewhat helpful or useful. I, for sure, am still learning as I go. But from hearing Don talk about these things all the time and actually experiencing everything as I go, I think I may have picked up a few things along the way. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and I'll see you in the next. Hello, and thank you for making it to the end of today's video. Insight into starting your own woodworking business is a question that I get asked a lot. And while I have my thoughts on it, I've never felt 100% comfortable recommending it to people, because at the end of the day, I think it takes a certain kind of personality to do it. And while there are a lot of really talented business-oriented woodworkers out there, like Steve Laros and Tyler Shaheen, a majority of woodworkers and makers I found are very down to earth and simply like to make things. Like me. And so those thoughts became my main motivation for today's topic. On the personal side, it's been a little more than 4 weeks since I've had a day off. And while some days are more difficult than others, I've been steadily making progress and cracking away at the 5 projects that I'd said I needed to complete. I've already finished 3 of them. One was the Sprinter van floor, the second one was the very last cutting board, and the third one was a CN table. The last 2 are what are being featured on my short form videos right now, the dining table and the Korean inspired coffee table. So yeah, lots of content being made behind the scenes that haven't even been released yet. All the while, as you've seen, we've also been putting a lot of time into improving our video content, like trying out some new styles and even live streaming a handful of times. Speaking of live streaming, I wanted to take a quick second to give a shout out to Chris Furlong because he was the one who actually inspired me to try live streaming. Dawn has told me that I should keep trying it. Probably a million times now. But sometimes you really need to hear things from a certain perspective or a different person. So thank you, Chris, for motivation and inspiration. We do have some ideas for how to approach our future live streams, but if you have an idea, feel free to leave a comment with an idea on what you would like to see on live streams. Getting back to topic, I do take some short break sessions here and there, like getting some bingsu, taking walks around the neighborhood, and even randomly having a dance session in the middle of the wood shop. And more than anything, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for all your support, your cheering, your good vibes, your comments, your jokes, your personalities. They've been getting me through. Super special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you guys for showing up to my exclusive live stream sessions. And also one more shout out to Josh Hescott today. Josh has been super helpful in helping us navigate the social media space and is just a really genuine and kind-hearted person. Thank you, Josh. And one more big thank you to you, the viewer, because you're still here and listening to me ramble. So yeah, that's all. Thank you. Hello. Our first business franchise in you might end up divorcing something. Or wonderful captions. Thank you.